Hello everybody, I'm Dr. Vundi. I am also known as the Wellness Doctor. I'm a medical doctor and I'm specializing in psychiatry, and I'm a mental health advocate. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about COVID-19 and how it could be affecting your child psychologically and what you can do to help them through this period and even after. So there are two ways I thought about how COVID-19 can be affecting your child. And the first one is it can imprint in them the concept of death in a very worrisome and anxious way. So children below the age of 3, they really don't have a concept of death. So the age group to focus on is from 5 years onwards. At 5 years, it's more of a curiosity. They'll have many questions as to why, what happened, but they don't understand fully some concepts of death, such as the permanence of it. So from the age of 7, that's where they fully grasp some of these concepts, like how permanent death is. But the thing with a pandemic like COVID, sometimes it messes up with this natural progression of their understanding of death. So you'll find that some 5-year-olds now are being bombarded with the concept of death, and it's very overwhelming for them, because if they are constantly hearing about people dying, large numbers of people dying, then it shifts their natural progression of how they should understand death. So you'll find even 5-year-olds are starting to get overwhelmed by death, because it's happening all at once and in large numbers. The second way that it can affect your child psychologically is this part about social isolation. So the thing about social isolation is really harmful for children, because children tend to be very social, even at a very young age, with the exception of children who have autism and other conditions. But so the thing about social isolation, there was a time in around 2004 when we had the SARS outbreak, and in Canada it was observed that children were 4 times more likely to have PTSD, and it was and this all boiled down to the social isolation. And the thing is, during that time they were only quarantined for, I think it was about 10 days. So you can imagine how much more this COVID-19 will affect our children, because children are being quarantined for much longer. So those are the two ways in which the pandemic can be affecting your kids. And so as a parent, what can you do to get ahead of this situation? The first thing I would advise is to be an example yourself. If you're constantly worrying, if you are constantly anxious, consciously expressing your anxiety, children pick up on these things so fast. So my advice to you is to keep your fear, because we're all fearing, yeah? I'm not saying don't fear, but be in control, be very conscious of how you're expressing it in your home. The second thing is to limit the exposure that your kids have, especially when it comes to news and updates and stuff like that. So if you're the sort of parent who the TV is on constantly, we're just, it's like constant updates after update after update, children are watching. Even if you feel like they're in the corner somewhere playing, they're watching. And so just limit their kind of exposure when it comes to the news they're watching. The third thing is to exercise with your kids, because remember, prior to the pandemic, the kids were running around with their friends, they were having a good time, but now they're in the house the whole day. They've got to move. Children have got to move, and we all know how when you exercise, that kind of like affects your mood and all that stuff. So figure out a way to have to exercise in the home with your kids. The fourth thing is to give children tasks, give children special tasks in their home. Children, when they create, it gives them a sense of hope, it gives them a sense of control, because currently right now they're feeling like they don't have anything under control, and that can be very worrying for a child. So give them small tasks, bake a cake with them, but like don't be the one doing everything. Let them take over. Give them tasks like do chores, even can be a task. Make your bed every day, or do the dishes, make pancakes for the family. Just give them tasks, create something. And this really helps with the children in terms of their mood and to feel like they kind of are in control with something. And the other thing I would emphasize on is to maintain a routine. I keep talking about how important routines are. So they wake up at a set time. They wake up at a set time, they make their bed, they have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the same time. Bedtime is the same time. Children and routines, if you destabilize their routine, they get very confused, and this can even increase their anxiety levels. And lastly, I just wanted to talk about how do you know if your child is, when do you start worrying? What signs do you need to look out for? If you're, if you want to know if your kid is having psychological problems, and the first one is always their mood. So if your child is unusually sad, if they're unusually aggressive, they're fighting with their siblings more than usual, because I know kids get sad, kids fight with their siblings, but if it's escalating, then there is a problem. If your child is reverting back to old habits, so for example, your child had already moved on and progressed from sucking their thumb, but then now they're like reverting back to that, that's a problem. Or if you had already potty trained, you are done with the diapers, and then they're now constantly bedwetting, that's kind of like something to worry about. Another thing I just want to put out there is, as parents, we might be tempted to rely on gadgets, the iPad and stuff, just to like entertain the kids. But some children during this time will feel so bored, and they might find themselves in the dark part of the internet. Please have regulations, regulate the YouTube, put restrictions on how much they can, where they can access online, because some of them might pick up some nasty things on the internet and stuff like that. So I hope that this has been really helpful. Let's be very proactive when it comes to parenting. I know it's exhausting. We will get through this, and at the end of this, I hope it will have helped you to bond with your child, to get to know them a little bit better. And yeah, we'll get over this. Hang in there. Be strong for the sake of your child. Thank you.